feature presentation.
Welcome back to The Cast of Us, an untitled HBO's The Last of Us podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside he's allergic to tomatoes, but he's not allergic to mushrooms, Eric Marchin.
This episode calls for a Bud Light.
Dude, we're back. It's been 2 long years, sort of. I'm so happy to be doing this show again. I'm so happy to be talking about this show again. The Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2 are 2 of my favorite stories of all time, 2 of my favorite video games of all time. I'm so excited to be sharing this story with people like yourself, Eric, and like my mom, who would never play the video game, but now get to kind of see this thing that I've been talking about for the last,
we all get to be fun
10
guys.
years. And, Last of Us Part 2 only came out in 2020. So it's a pretty quick turnaround on the adaptation here. But, I'm so excited, especially doing this show where we get to do episode by episode breakdowns where, it's coming from my perspective of being a hardcore fan and know all the changes from the video game. And then your perspective as a film lover and television lover and being able to experience for the first time. So
I'm about the arts, Matt.
You are, man. That's what I always say. And I'm a man of the people. So welcome back to the show. I'm Matt of the people. Welcome back to everyone. Thank you for either listening for the first time or coming back for season 2. This is The Cast of Us, where each week Eric and I break down the newest episode of HBO's The Last of Us. Like I mentioned, me as a hardcore fan, Eric is a newcomer to the story. This will be completely filled with spoilers. So if you haven't watched season 2, episode 1 of HBO's The Last of Us, I would bounce out now. Go watch that. It's now available on Max or on Crave here in Canada. Or go play the video game. It's excellent if you want to spoil the entire thing. So,
40 hours though, right?
Yeah, it's 40 plus hours. It's a beefy one. So, we have episode. You guys can go back and listen to all of our breakdowns of season 1, which are available on this channel right here. If you're on Apple Podcasts, I'm not sure how Spotify does it, but you can just click and choose season 1 or season 2, and all the episodes for that season should be sorted in order there for you. And then we also have a season 2 spoiler-free review that you guys can check out, which is available right now. If you want to get our thoughts on the entire season without giving away anything that happens throughout that season. Eric, how have you been these last 2 years?
Well, you know what? I've been pretty good. I've been very patient for season 2. We've gone through an actors and writers strike. A lot has changed, especially right now in the Americas, and it's interesting in terms of that relationship because this show, a lot of it is shot in British Columbia and Alberta. So yeah, a lot has changed, I guess we could do we should do a side episode of just like what's changed in between the 2 seasons.
A lot.
What about you, Matt? What's changed for you?
Oh, well, I had that mental breakdown, which made us pause on the last season of the show, but I'm okay now. Everything's good. And I'm happy to be talking about this show. And today we are talking about season 2, episode 1, Future Days, directed by Craig Mazin and written by Craig Mazin.
Now that is interesting as well. I want to start with that just quickly. We'll go to the prologue of the show, but his title doesn't come up in the actual and none of the directing and writing titles come up in the actual opening credits. And that first title comes up a little bit later than you would expect it to, and that does feel a little bit like they're really pulling or they're pushing their own weight onto this. It's like we know this is the guys are back, the boys are back.
Yeah,
we're ready to go.
I agree with that. I think it just probably keeps it simple where they can have 1 or 2 versions of the opening credits and then just put those in the beginning of the episode so they don't have to change the opening credits every time. I'm assuming.
Cost
but
effective.
it puts their names up front for sure, written and directed by Craig Mazin. I think he did a great job in the first season, and he directs, I think, a couple episodes, or is it just this one this season? But
no, he's directed a couple, but like he's written mostly
pretty much all
everything.
of it, yeah.
And a lot of it's solo. Like he's been given solo credit on a lot of it.
So yeah, we're going full spoilers, everyone, just so you know. So we're gonna go beat by beat, kind of what happened throughout the episode, talk about some of the differences from the game. So if you haven't played the game, I will be spoiling kind of what happened in the game as well, in case you're watching the show first and want to jump over to the game after. So if you really do care about that, I'm not gonna go, no future spoilers though. So we are only spoiling things from this episode,
which also has the
Last
title
of Us.
Future in it.
Yeah, so just want to make sure that everyone knows that. So we begin with the prologue
Yes.
to this season, where we kind of get a quick, not necessarily recap, it's sort of a recap of the very last moments of season 1, where Joel murdered all of the Fireflies, killed a doctor, saved Ellie, brought her out of the hospital. And basically, as they're going to Jackson, swears to her that the story he told her is true, even though it was a lie. He told Ellie that some raiders came and killed all the Fireflies, and he had to escape with her after they let her go, and that they couldn't find a cure. And they've done this experiment on many, many people who are also immune, she just also, they couldn't make a cure from her. So they kind of give you, it's been a couple years since the show season 1 ended, so it's just a quick kind of recap of the very last moments of season 1. So then they walk towards Jackson, Wyoming. So then we flash kind of back to Salt Lake City, to a moment that takes place soon after the events of Salt Lake City, where Joel kills all the Fireflies, where you see a group of surviving Fireflies. I'm getting this this description from Wikipedia, just so everyone knows, because Eric has notes for the breakdown, so he'll jump in too, but I just want to give credit and say that these aren't from my own notes. This is from Wikipedia. So they're burying their dead from that hospital massacre. So you kind of see this crew of people, these young people, talking about the events of what just took place. They're talking about who they think did it. They heard that his name is either Joe or Joel, I believe that they say.
Yeah.
And that he's like a handsome older man. And he had a young girl with him. Or, well, obviously they know of Ellie and that he took her. But then, so we meet Caitlin Deaver's character, Abby, who looks almost the most distraught from everyone. And Eric, jump in a second with other notes that you have. But Abby insists that they find Joel, even though Owen kind of tries to dissuade her from doing so.
Because they don't have any resources. They don't have really any training. As you already mentioned, the Fireflies are basically wiped out, so they're all that's left. And you get the sense that like Abby, wants to hit Joel back and go to Jackson right away. And you start to realize, like, okay, this is starting to feel really personal to her, and the other people aren't reacting the same way, but they are still supporting her.
Yeah.
And in that sort of timeline change, she makes the decision that, they'll go to Seattle and, build up their resources and their training and prepare, because it will take time to do this properly,
to track Joel,
down, and we'll kill him, we'll get him. And Owen's kind of like the second in command to Abby, and sometimes the one that's kind of the most like logical, or the one that doesn't want to go through certain things, and you'll see that as we go along. But I wrote down the line that Abby says when when they get to Joel, is that we'll kill him slowly, and she says, when we kill him slowly.
Yeah.
And the way she says that, you can sense the anger and frustration and heartbreak. Now, this is, I think, important that you need to talk about this, because this is an upfront in The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, right?
Yes, a couple of things on this sequence. I've seen some people post online that, and Eric, you mentioned it in our spoiler-free review, that Caitlin Dever lost her mother
Yes.
right before she started shooting the series. And I don't know if it's 100% true, but I saw people post online today being like, she shot this sequence at this graveyard, basically a couple, like 4 days after her mom's funeral and stuff like that. So I could imagine she put a lot of that into this performance and into the series. And I think she does an amazing job. So yeah, this whole sequence with Abby and her friends isn't in the game. So this scene at the graveyard and of them burying their dead, does Abby allude to why, like, does she talk about who it is she lost, or
A
in the
little bit, but
sequence?
you
But
get it more
yeah.
in this
Okay.
coming.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I this whole sequence, as a fan of the game, I was like initially going, "Oh shit, okay. They're already giving you way more than they give you in the game of who Abby is and what her intention is." Which
Do you
I
think
thought
there's a
was,
reason for that, though, in terms of combating some of the, because
yeah,
you've talked about it before on the podcast, where that character has been met by
a
a
lot of,
vocal response
yeah.
by incel types and what have
And
you.
just, yeah, a lot of criticism with that character, a lot of people with, just screaming at, because they're garbage people online. And then some people who have, valid criticisms of the game. But yeah, I think it's just them probably looking at some of the feedback and seeing how they can apply this to a television audience, and probably, you know, just wanting to be more upfront with it. So I also I think because you're not playing this game in one sitting or very quickly, like you might be playing the video game, that they're just going to pace out uh, certain character moments differently. So just being more upfront with Abby and learning more about her right away, I think, is probably a smart call when adapting this to television. I was initially hesitant over that, because I think one of the best parts of the game, without going too much into it, is that you don't really know who Abby is, and you don't know why she's, around, and what your purpose of seeing her in the game is. And then that's kind of slowly revealed, where initially I was like, oh man, that's like one of the better parts of the game, is that it's challenging in the sense of, with things that happen, just challenging you as the player as well. And I don't want to go too much into that either, but I just felt being up front is almost not spoon feeding it, but almost like I could see people thinking that it's babying the audience a little bit and not trusting them to kind of, you know, get this story in the way it was originally told, because of some of that feedback. But I'm actually pretty okay with it. I think it develops her character a little bit more, and kind of this version of Abby of with Caitlin Dever, and bringing more of like an angry, emotional kind of power to it, rather than a physical power. I think is kind of interesting. But I was just not expecting them to be so upfront with her intention with that opening line, especially of saying, I'm going to kill him, and I'm going to kill him slowly, essentially. It's like,
it sounded
oh god
Emperor
damn.
Palpatine esque. But I think there's another reason as well, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but he is mentioned in this episode. I almost feel, because this is the first episode of season 2, and we did get that recap at the beginning, that I think the longer you wait to reveal that, maybe people will think, like, have a harder time remembering who are they referencing with this relationship to that character.
Yeah.
Because I felt that way, because I've only watched The Last of Us once, the first season, and I felt that way when Catherine O'Hara, in this episode, so this isn't a spoiler for later on, in this episode is mentioning Eugene. And
Yeah.
for a minute I thought, wait, was he in season 1? Did I forget something about a character arc, or like something that maybe was like a small supporting role that wasn't really significant in season 1, but maybe will be important in season 2, because that's what they're doing with Abby here, obviously. And it wasn't. But I think it's almost like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, and also like, I think to what you're saying, like they're trying to brace for impact, they're being upfront about it, but it's almost like, okay, well, the first episode, we're also jogging people's memories of what happened in season 1. And since we had that, final segment of season 1, rehashed again, we should make somewhat of a connection, in the first couple of episodes,
Yeah.
to let people know, like, if you've seen season 1, you kind of know who we're referencing, because the person that we're referencing, that we will find out more later, isn't a big character themselves.
No. Yeah. And was never in the first game either. So
Yeah.
So then after this prologue, we get a 5-year time jump.
We're doing Avengers now.
Yeah, 5 years later. So yeah, 5 years later, Ellie's now 19 years old. Ellie and Joel have we've kind of come to learn that they're sort of estranged from each other, not fully estranged. Obviously, Joel thinks of it as just a teenager being a teenager and kind of rebelling against their parent, and doesn't necessarily clue in of why she might be upset at him, or why she's acting this way.
She's living in the garage as well.
Yeah. She's moved out of the house and living in the garage of Joel's garage, which I also think is different from the game. I think Ellie didn't live in Joel's garage. She lived in a different garage or small house in the game. So they have them sort of living together, but her out in the garage.
And we should also say the prologue happens, and then we have the title sequence, that we're all familiar with. And then when we get back into Jackson, Wyoming, that's when we have the written and directed by Craig Mazin come in a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah. Jesse, I think, is at this point we see Ellie training for like combat training with Jesse.
It's not Jesse. It's a person that he's asked to.
Yes.
But
he's there, right?
Him.
Like,
yes,
he's training her, and then she's fighting this other guy, and he puts her into like a MMA like arm lock kind of thing.
He gets
right?
he gets a punch on her though. He makes contact initially, but then she finishes him, and then after the fight, Ellie learns that Jesse
told him
to pull punches, because he was afraid of knocking her out on the first
and he was afraid of kind of Joel like kind of being mad at him. So.
And Ellie gets mad at Jesse and says to Jesse, "Don't do that next time."
Yeah. Because she at this point goes, "He's not my fucking dad. Like, stop. Like, he's trying to control things of my life," or things like that. So he's telling Jesse to back off and just don't. She wants to be trained
they're like in
properly.
A barn too.
Yeah. And she wants to be trained properly. And you can see that she's made a lot of progress over these 5 years. Like, she's very capable now, comparatively to, an episode we recently talked about, which you guys can go back to, is episode 8 of season. Is it 8? That was or 7, episode 8, right? 8 and 9 were the last 2 episodes. So 8 was the one where Ellie had to go against David. And, she was very green to all of this, where now she's training for combat and very capable.
She's not a victim anymore or defenseless. She can handle herself. And, like, that's a part of it as well, right? Where, she's 19 years of age. The relationship is both estranged, but also that's kind of natural, where you rebel against your parents at that age, or you want to kind of go out on your own and figure things out for yourself. And you can kind of see that in Ellie and what Bella Ramsey is doing in their performance there. So it's obviously very physically rooted, and it's, you're getting a sense of, speaking of rooted, we see then construction outside, and in a pipe, not unlike a Super Mario Brothers pipe, roots and organic matter clogging these pipes, and you obviously feel like, okay, well, what's this alluding to? Because this is going to set something up, right? And
yeah, they're kind of breaking apart these like clay kind of pipes or whatever, right? And then like, or not clay, but like whatever it's made out of, and then you see this kind of stuff growing in it. That's obviously an issue that Jackson is dealing with.
Yeah, and Joel has become basically like a foreman, and he's like, when we first see him, he's wearing glasses, so that means he's older now. He's in his 60s. His hair is a little grayer. He's fixing a circuit breaker and needs a new spring. And that's when we're introduced to Dina, played by Isabella Merced.
Yes, where she comes in to talk to Joel, correct? Is that in this episode? Yeah. Immediately love this. I mean, Isabella Merced is great. Dina is a wonderful character in the game. Dina and Joel don't really have any relationship in the game. Like, they obviously know each other, and but we don't get much from Jackson and Joel's relationship to the other people in Jackson that much, other than Tommy. So like, I think it's such a great change to show that Dina and Joel sort of have this like, it's not necessarily clearly as close as Joel and Ellie, but I think as he gets more estranged from Ellie, he's gotten a little bit closer with Dina as someone he wants to share things with and how to fix things, and she's interested and treats him with respect. And we get into that a little bit later as he's talking to Gail.
Well, even about Viper and Curtis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we also see that Tommy, Joel's brother, takes Ellie off patrol due to Joel's request. So
well,
again,
they're scoping at that time too. So Tommy and Ellie are basically we also now learn that Ellie's becoming a really good shot.
Yes.
And they're out at Route 189.
Yeah. And Tommy's teaching Ellie how to, use a sniper rifle and shoot. And then he tells her that Joel kind of forced his hand to take her off patrol. So again, I like that they're tripling down on all these, like, kind of Joel being overprotective, Joel being kind of a little controlling, like classic fatherly stuff, but playing off of, he's not really her father, but these 5 years, obviously he feels that way, and how close they got throughout the last season. And it's basically like their father-daughter, but then Ellie's kind of pushing that away a little bit, and we don't necessarily know why at this point. So she insists that Tommy follows through and puts her, on that assignment and goes on that patrol.
Yeah, and she feels almost like why you're treating me like a child, like your child. And going back to Joel and Dina, Joel also mentions, because Dina's interested in learning how to fix a circuit breaker, and in that conversation, Joel, there's a conversation about Ellie in terms of where their relationship is and where they are, and Joel says that he's not responsible for her emotional state, and then Dina picks up on that and says, "Oh, are you seeing Gail? Are you seeing?" And first we think, "Oh, he's seeing somebody," but then we find out that Gail is a psychotherapist.
Yeah,
and so he's getting
the
in touch with his emotions.
Gail, or do we see the supermarket sequence where they're on patrol? What comes first? I forget.
The supermarket sequence, or when they're on the Gail's first.
Gail's first. So then Joel, then goes and meets with his psychotherapist, Gail, who's played by the wonderful Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
A brand new character for the show.
She drinks during sessions and accepts weed as payment.
Yes, which is amazing.
I knew you would like her right as soon as I saw
100%. Like, I mean, it's phenomenal. And I think it's, again, such a great change from the game. In the game, you would never have a sequence of Joel sitting down and talking to a therapist, right? Maybe you would, but like, it just wouldn't, gameplay wise. How do you get to that point? You could have probably shown a little bit more from his perspective and done it. But it's a smart kind of going,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how do we get in Joel's head? How do we, without him doing a voiceover or any other bullshit? Like the original Last of Us Part 2 starts with Joel and Tommy out on a patrol or talking to one another. And Joel telling Tommy what happened at Salt Lake City. So he's saying it out loud to Tommy at that point and admitting what he had done, knowing that his brother probably would be the one person who wouldn't judge him and would understand, kind of thing. And that's how the game starts. So to kind of flip that and have him struggling more with it and going to therapy, I think is such a wonderful addition to the character and giving a little bit more depth to Joel in this story, as well as a way for him to talk through his feelings, because it's harder, I guess, to do that in the game where television,
It's a
I
way of
think,
getting exposition
yeah,
out, right?
exactly.
But it feels natural because, okay, well, you're in a therapy session. And what I also like about this is that, okay, this is now, I mean, this is Catherine O'Hara perfectly. Like, she can play it both funny, but still be cutting and, um, cruel when she has to be. But we also understand, or we will understand more of why she is. But she did mention, like, during this session, we don't talk about the things that we want to, and until we say them out loud and put them out there, they just fester in our minds and in our bodies, and it's just, you need to kind of have that dialogue in order to move forward or to be able to figure things out. And so obviously he's at a standstill with Ellie, and so Catherine O'Hara's character kind of kicks things off and says, like, I really have a hard time doing this with you because of the stuff with Eugene, and we don't know who Eugene is. But that's when I thought, oh, was Eugene somebody in season 1 that was like maybe like a smaller character that I had forgotten about? But anyways, just keeping Eugene in mind for later.
But we do learn that Joel killed her husband.
Yes,
Like,
yes. No, we
yes, like,
do, but
yeah,
there will be more on that
yeah,
later. But I
totally.
was thinking,
And
like, when she says that, I was like, oh, was that like someone like the doctor who is not a character that maybe is
right,
like a big
a name actor or whatever like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, you see this passive aggressive quality from Catherine O'Hara, and she's not coddling Joel in any way, and she's not the traditional psychotherapist or what they used to be. But you can see a lot of Catherine O'Hara's humor coming out in that
Totally.
too. But she can, also be very biting, and
Yeah, I
and
mean,
you also understand why too, and you will appreciate this more later on, and that's what I was alluding to.
yeah,
Why you'll
absolutely.
appreciate
So
it more.
yeah, her admitting that she knows that Joel is the one that, killed her husband, and she's never kind of said it out loud, and she says it to Joel and she goes, just say the thing out loud, like say whatever you're hiding, because she can tell that she's been doing this long enough that she can tell that he's
You're
not.
lying or tough love.
Yeah.
It's the 5th session
Yeah,
too for them.
exactly. So Joel then confesses that he lied to Ellie, but he doesn't reveal what he did. He just said like he's wronged her and lied to her. So
Yeah.
he still won't say it out loud, right? Like
And
he's
and the
still,
quote is, you can't heal something unless you say it out loud. Say the thing you're afraid to say out loud.
yeah. So I think a fantastic sequence with Catherine O'Hara again, developing a little bit more of how Joel is dealing with all of this as well.
Yeah.
Which we don't get a lot of in the game. You get a little bit of it at the beginning, and then it's told in sort of a different way. But I think the whole addition of Joel doing therapy is fantastic.
It's good for the soul. But you're also getting more, like you mentioned, like Jackson is just a backdrop for the game.
Yeah.
You're getting more of Jackson developing into this mini city.
Yes.
And
yeah.
You're seeing more and more people seeking refuge coming in, and Joel has a conversation with Maria, right? Where like they're talking
Tommy's
about
wife.
yeah, because they start talking about like how like the building that they're in, like it's colder, and like one thing that they need more is a cock.
Yeah.
But there like Joel is a little bit more gated in the sense of like, he's like, oh, well, the only way you can help other people is by helping yourself first. And we need to, like firm up what we have in
Yes,
order and like building it up.
that was right before he goes to therapy, right? That
Yes. Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, he has that conversation with Maria, and Tommy comes in, and yeah, he talks about how like we're not going to have anything if you keep letting people in. And it kind of has that Joel, like, not selfish mentality, but realistic mentality of like sometimes
He's being guarded.
Yeah, you got to look out for yourself before others. And we even saw that going way back to when the beginning of the show and the beginning of the series, where they're driving with Sarah down the road, and there's those people on the side of the road, and Sarah's like, hey, can we stop and help them? And Joel's just like, no, we can't. Right. Like, so he's kind of continued that of looking out for his own people over strangers or over, someone else that might also need help. Right.
But Maria then reminds him that he was too a refugee.
Yeah.
Even though he's important and he's Tommy's older brother and he's family, that, you have to be empathetic to the situation at hand. And that's also when, we see Tommy and Maria's son Benji, right? And
Joel is with
Uncle Grumpy.
Yeah. And I love that their little relationship too, which I don't think is in the game as well. I don't remember. I don't think that you see their son in the game. I'm foggy on a couple things. It's been 5 years. I played it twice back to back. Right. I beat it when we reviewed it, and then I played the game again right after. And then I've been wanting to go back. I think I'm going to play it again now that this season I've watched this season. It's like what I did with Invincible, where I finished season 1 of Invincible, then immediately wanted to go read Invincible again and reread the whole series. So I think I'm going to go play Last of Us Part 2 again, even though I have other games to play. So then we go with Ellie, who goes on the patrol.
I just wanted to mention one more thing about the Catherine O'Hara
cut me
thing.
off at any part.
So just in terms of the Eugene thing, so it's her birthday as well, for that session, and she says that this is the first birthday without her husband.
Yes,
and that's why years.
That's why she admits it to Joel that she, so, well, I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, that's why she wants to say it out loud to him.
Yeah.
Then we get the sequence where Ellie goes off on patrol with Dina, correct?
Yes.
Her and Dina go out, where they go to a supermarket. They're with a couple other people as well, right? I think in their group. The supermarket sequence is awesome because of
there's a Bud Light.
There is a Bud Light. That whole how they enter the supermarket is ripped straight from the game. Like even the way that truck is set up, where you have to climb up the truck to go in through the window of the supermarket.
Green Place Market is the name of
is such a fun nod to the gameplay of the series. Like I really do think that like those are for it's still great set design, but then if you've played the game, you know that that's exactly how you enter that supermarket for this sequence. This is where we are introduced. So, Ellie and Dina get into some shit because they found, it wasn't like a bear that was ripped up, and then they found some other people and
they're on patrol. We should also mention that Kat is the leader of this patrol, who is actually played by Noah Lamanna, who was in Paying for It.
Oh, cool. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they were in that movie. So it's a cool little bit of like,
I like when these little Canadian
production.
actors get like a bit role in The Last of Us because it's shot in Canada. That's awesome.
Yeah, and when you see like people you recognize and you're like, oh yeah, I remember just seeing you in Paying for It's a very good movie, so check that out. But yeah, like it is interesting because like I have written here like the blood trail in the snow when they find the bear and the infected, like that's a very vivid image. We also learned that Dina has broken up with Jesse.
Yes,
which I think is important to know. What I'm getting here from Ellie is that she is overly confident and cocky and is a rule breaker, and a whole part of this in terms of this community is following the rules and making sure you play everything by the book. There's talk about that a lot, about with like the council, about protecting the community and the people in there. And Ellie is very much a character,
goes her own way about it, and
goes her own way, but is also very like living in the moment. Like she's very like, she doesn't think about things until after they've happened. And like you can even see this with she's still a young adult, so she's still like looking for fun. And so when they enter this Green Place Market, one of the funny things I saw in there, and I'm sure you saw it as well, is that the employee of the month for July was a dog.
That's from the game. That's from the game, dude. Yeah. It was such a fun little moment in the game, going through that supermarket and getting the employee of the month. And that's a funny bit from the game. I love that as well.
That's where the pun comes in too, with the bear. What do you call a grizzly's ribs?
Barbecue. Yeah, it's great stuff. So they go into the supermarket. Some shit goes down, where there's some infected in the supermarket. This is where we are introduced to a new type of infected.
After Ellie falls through the floor, because at first they think it's just going to be routine, like there's just going to be a couple of them, and like they're good.
So right now we have the clickers and runners are the two main. We've seen a bloater as well in that sequence.
We got a bloater.
There's a bloater of the big boys that we saw in that
Thick Daddies.
The Thick Daddies we saw with the that sequence at the house where they all come out of the ground
with Melanie Linsky's character.
Yes, that sequence we got introduced to a bloater. So clickers, runners, bloaters, and now we're introduced when Ellie falls through the floor to stalkers. So these are a new type of infected that are they're in the show. They're portraying them as like an advanced version of the infected, where they can they're intelligent in the sense where they stalk you, they hide, they're quiet, they and I think the show did a really good job of introducing it. There's a lot of great sequences where you just see the stalker in the background as Ellie's trying to make her way through the supermarket. Yeah. A little bit. Very scary version of Gollum. Yeah.
I love Ellie when she first, like after she falls through the floor, she's okay. Dina says she'll look for a way to to get to her and because she can't drop down directly, doesn't have any rope or anything. But when the stalker is introduced, I love that Ellie is like, "Run at me, fucker."
Yeah, no, Ellie's the best. So the stalker, very creepy. Thought it was a great kind of introduction to that new threat. After Ellie and Dina get out of this situation, they return to Jackson, where we get kind of this council meeting where they're informing the council of what they've encountered these stalkers outside the town. Ellie's describing that they're intelligent. Dina tries to back up her story during the sequence, and Marie is the kind of head of the council, I believe, right? And then,
Marie and Tommy are the two heads. And what I like about that conversation is that Marie actually questions Tommy in that conversation as well. Like, why would it be any different? Because they said like, "Oh, you shouldn't have gone out on your own," but Ellie and Dina, or Ellie says that like, "Oh, well, if it was Joel and you, there wouldn't be anyone questioning it, and like, why is there a double standard there?" And then
some light misogyny or some light sexism.
And Tommy's like, "Well, it doesn't matter." And then Marie says, "Well, yeah, actually, why?"
Yeah, like, her turning to him and saying that is great. Yeah.
Yeah, like those little moments are amazing, and I like afterwards the council has a moment where they're talking about do we believe them, and they can tell that Dina has lied, but Ellie is telling the truth.
Yeah, Maria says that she knows that Dina's lying, but Ellie seems like she's telling the truth. Yeah.
And there's a great conversation about reality and like what the situation is like, and one of the council members quotes Lily Tomlin, "Reality is nothing but a collective hunch."
Love that. So they have this sequence, but everyone's also prepping for the New Year's Eve dance as well. So they're all kind of working on a holiday essentially at this point, but because they have to kind of prep for any threats that might like be a threat to the town.
Well, especially that's something we haven't even mentioned with the stalkers, is that this is what I found really fascinating, and we'll probably talk more about it in episode 2, is that you would think, like, with it being so cold and so harsh of a climate, that fungus couldn't thrive in this environment, but they're seeming to get closer. And it's starting to become a problem. Like, the council is having this conversation, and they're thinking about, like, oh, this was never a problem before. And
we're noticing more and more, right? Because they were basically just on the outskirts, and they would be able to send a crew, and they would kill the couple infected that would get closer, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then to your point of seeing the fungus in the pipe, right? I mean, we'll get to that. It's the very end of the episode, but you can tell that it's finding a way to mutate essentially, right? Over these years and finding different ways
to the environment.
What I loved about season 1 is they didn't have the spores in season 1, but they had that thing where if you stepped on the fungus when it was out around, it would alert the other infected, and I thought that was an interesting inclusion in the last season.
One other thing, did we mention that Ellie is bit by the stalker?
We didn't. Yeah, that she gets bit all the time. She's just like, she gets bit in the stomach by the stalker and has to hide that from Dina because
everybody else. Because
at this point it's only really Joel that knows about it, right? Yeah. So, she does get bitten again. And did she get bit once or twice last season? She gets bitten. Obviously, her original bite is with at the mall. With with Storm Riley,
Reeve.
right?
Yeah.
Riley.
And then I think she gets bitten again because Joel has to kind of watch her. And
I think she gets bitten in the first season, at a certain point too, and has to prove to them. And then
when does Ellie get bit?
She's getting bitten again here. I'm like, Jesus, Ellie, you'd be dead 10 times if you weren't.
I mean, it still hurts probably, like hell.
Oh, so. Absolutely, for sure. But yeah, good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Because she also like before the New Year's
has to
party, make it look like a cut, not a bite mark, just in case maybe a doctor looks at her or something like that. And we even learned that later on with her arm.
Yes, as well. So I just want to look at my notes here. Yeah, I loved that they introducing the infected through the pipes in Jackson. I thought that was really kind of an interesting, cool thing that they never did in the game as well. So then we move on to the New Year's Eve party at the barn, right? The mess hall or the barn, ripped straight from the game, dude. The first trailer.
Well, you've shown me that sequence before,
yes,
so I knew
because I think
it
was. Yes, I think I've shown you that trailer when it first came out. When I was excited for the game, is those string lights on the ceiling, the barn, the band that plays in the trailer, which then is in the game, which is the same band that they used in live performing.
And Gustavo's in there as well as a cameo.
Which he is in the game just outside in Jackson as you walk around, but I like that they put him in the band.
Yeah.
In this Gustavo Santaolalla, and who is one of the composers. He works with someone else on the show, but he is
David Fleming, I believe.
David Fleming, thank you. But he's done all the main Last of Us themes and stuff like that. So a fun cameo from him. Beautiful recreation of the sequence from the game. This whole thing plays out almost 1-for-1 exactly how it played out in the game, like shot for shot almost. The song, Dina and Ellie's conversation.
What about Jesse?
Jesse's Jesse's conversation with Ellie is pretty similar. Like, it's probably slightly tweaked, right? It's not maybe word for word, but that conversation between Jesse and Ellie is very similar. How it plays out, and then Ellie going to dance with Dina, their whole conversation. The original trailer is their kiss, and then it kind of does this 360 and then you know,
What's the
what am
word
I
you're looking for?
thinking of? Transitions to
Transitions.
transitions into Ellie at a different moment in the game, and it's very well done. If you want to go back and watch that original trailer, it's very, very cool. And then cuts back to them kissing, and Dina's last line of they should be terrified of you, essentially, which is a double
That you're a
meaning.
threat.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a double meaning for sure. And
But then RoboCop comes out of nowhere and
yes, yeah,
breaks
and
up the
says
party.
a
Mr.
homophobic
Robert
slur.
John Burke himself.
Robert
who
John Burke just comes in to say some slurs, and you're like, oh, okay,
I
man,
love
maybe
that guy. He is so
Yeah.
stiff as an actor, but kind of like there's something interesting about him. Like you've seen him in tons of stuff. Like he was in Black Klansman, Thinner, as I mentioned, RoboCop 3. He takes over Peter Weller's role. He's in Black Panther 2 on the boat sequence
Oh
with Lake
shit!
Bell.
Okay, yeah.
He usually plays a cop or a politician. He was Robert De Niro's right hand man in Limitless. Really solid character actor who's just kind of like awkward but like works perfectly as this role. And yeah, what an asshole.
Yes. Just throws out homophobic slur at both Dina and Ellie. This is when Joel comes over and basically shoves Seth to the ground. Slightly different than the game where he just kind of lightly pushes him in the game, but the same kind of thing of Joel coming in to try to protect Ellie. And this is the whole theme of everything. Joel always trying to protect Ellie, and Ellie kind of pushing back on that, going like, fuck off. Like, you're not my dad. I'm an adult. Leave me alone, kind of thing. Um, so she basically gets pissed at him for saying this to Seth and saying like, I don't need your help. And then Joel leaves. Ellie then leaves the party later, sees Joel on the porch playing guitar, but then just walks right past him and goes to the garage. We then cut back to the reveal that the pipes do have infected kind of tendrils in them.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the
Don't trust the fungus.
Yeah, man. And I think that's a really interesting change from the game, because I think that's a fun addition playing off of stuff they built in season 1 that wasn't necessarily in the game. And then it made me go, oh, cool. They're going to do more with Jackson, because Jackson was just kind of like the beginning of the game where Ellie is. And then she kind of goes off and, it's just there. You don't know much about the people there. Jackson, you get to walk around a little bit in the game and explore it, but it's not necessarily like a big part of the game. It's just where you start the game. And then the episode ends on Abby and her friends arriving to Jackson almost. Well, not to Jackson. They're still pretty far away, but they're on a mountaintop looking at Jackson and the lights down at Jackson, which is essentially almost where Joel and Ellie were at the end of season 1, kind of bookending the whole thing.
But it adds a cinematic aspect of it as
yeah.
well, where you have, intended antagonists in this introduction looking down at something. Something bad is going to happen, and that's what they're setting you up for episode 2, because like any good
I'm
show,
sure only happy things will happen.
like any good show, any good movie, that like cliffhangers work, obviously more so in television. That's how they keep you watching week to week.
And I thought it was a good cliffhanger. I thought it was a good, again, I understand why you start the episode with Abby and then end on that with, especially with what she said in that opening sequence. I think it sets up, the, air quotes villain of the series, of season 2, really well, of this looming threat is the perfect term of phrase. So I thought it was a great first episode. Everything we've kind of mentioned, where good changes with Gale and great performance by Catherine O'Hara. The introduction to Abby, which is different from the game, but I think gives more context and kind of into her thoughts and why she is coming to Jackson. I thought the introduction to the stalkers was frightening and kind of exciting. I thought Dina and Joel's relationship was such a smart addition and juxtaposition between his relationship with Ellie. Love the council meeting and developing the other characters in Jackson. Joel working through his shit in therapy, I think, is such a instead of bottling it all in, even though he's still bottling it all in. Love the grocery store sequence, the whole barn New Year's sequence.
The production
is amazing.
design is gorgeous. Like the New Year's Eve party and dance is obviously stunning. Like it like you said, like it captures the source material perfectly and brings it into live action wonderfully. But yeah, you look at that grocery store, you look at even like the barn that they're fighting in at the beginning, or just Catherine O'Hara's Gail's home. Like the production design on this show is top notch. And I think another thing that this show does really, really well, and we'll talk about it maybe more next week, but we can talk about it here as well because it's not a spoiler. It understands the cold, the freezing nature of the Canadian landscape, even though it's not Canada in terms of like the fictional location that it's created, but you understand how characters feel like they're tightening up and shivering, and the breath, and having to bundle up, and it really understands that kind of weather quite well for an American based production. It gets down to the core temperature.
I absolutely agree. Yeah. Can't wait to see the rest of the series and talk about the rest of the series with you. I mean, obviously we've seen it, but you know what I mean by that. I can't wait to watch it week to week with everyone is essentially what I'm saying, and go over and each episode in detail. So I think it ends in a really, exciting, scary spot, and I can't wait for people to watch episode 2. It should be fun to talk about.
Should be very normal. Everybody will be very normal.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. So excited to be back doing this. I hope you're enjoying The Last of Us season 2. Let us know if are you watching this for the first time? Did you play through the game? I'm curious to see. I can't wait to see if my mom watched episode 1 yet. I haven't rewatched episode 1 with Nevis yet. I'll probably do that this evening, so that'll be exciting to kind of revisit what I just talked about and get her thoughts. But yeah, next week it'll be fun to be back here talking about that one. So if you want to find the rest of our work, head over to Untitled_Movies over on Letterboxd. You can follow Eric and I on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck and at EM6211 or Eric Marchin. Please go subscribe to our other show, which is the Untitled Movie Podcast, where Eric and I get together usually once a week, sometimes 4 times a week, sometimes 6 times a week to either talk about a new movie that just came out and review it, or maybe Eric's doing a collab episode with the Film Junk podcast, or maybe he's interviewing someone. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys went over there and subscribe to that podcast as well. We do that pretty often, usually talking about new movies, or Eric's interviewing someone.
We have reviews for The Amateur and Warfare out right now.
Yep, we do. Warfare is co-directed by Alex Garland, who just did a wonderful podcast with Neil Druckmann and has talked about his love for The Last of Us as well. So it all kind of comes back to that. And then Until Dawn, we'll have an interview and a review out for soon, which is also PlayStation Productions and is an adaptation of a PlayStation horror game. So kind of some tie-ins there as well. Thank you all once again. And until next time.
Don't forget to caulk those windows. It can get pretty drafty in winter.
See ya.